showcases that are actually worth your time and money that we really like for various reasons that we're going to outline here. I would say the number one here is a very, very solid showcase, and that is the... What's going on, guys? This is Braden from Advancement Hockey Advising here, and today we'll be talking about the top 8 showcases that I recommend here as of 2023. So I actually made a video here a few years back outlining, some general principles that you can follow when choosing which showcases to go to. Okay, you can click this video up here. In that video too, I also dished out a couple names of showcases that I recommended back in 2021. But a lot's changed since then. A lot of these showcases that I recommended, they're just not running anymore. The website links don't work, nothing like that. So I figured, you know what, let's make an updated 2023 video of the showcases that I recommend here. So I will outline some general principles to follow, but if you want those, click the other video. It goes in it much more in depth. But the main point here is to actually give you guys 8 showcases that I really recommend that you guys can go to. Now, each of these showcases have their strengths and weaknesses. I'm going to outline them here as I'm giving the list, but also to just recognize that if I don't mention a showcase on this list, it doesn't condemn them by any means. It means that either I'm not aware of them or maybe they are a little bit subpar. So if you hear of another showcase, run it by us and we'll let you know our thoughts. So the whole point here is to give you guys a list of showcases that are actually worth your time and money that we really like for various reasons that we're going to outline here. Also too, I want to note that if you don't have the means or the money, the time, whatever it is, you don't have those means to get to a showcase in the summer, that you can't go to all these different showcases all like that, it's not the end of the world. I want you guys to know that the main bulk of the scouting and recruiting done for NCAA hockey at least is done throughout the season. So all these showcases in the summer and all that, they are worth it in some ways because you can get exposure. I have seen players get committed out of these camps, but if you can't go to them and you have you're signed in the CCHL and you do really well there, but you're a bit tighter financially, honestly focus on really, putting the limited amount of money you have into your training in the summer and moving forward from there. Worrying about all these different showcases, it doesn't make sense if you don't have the means. If you do have the means, that being said, it is worth going to maybe 2 or 3 showcases in the summer. 1, to keep you, going on the ice, keep you playing, but 2, to get that exposure in front of scouts. It does make a difference if you do have the means and you do well at these showcases. So I want to give that caveat here before we dive into the video. Now, before we dive into our rankings here, actually, it's a different little plug that I have to put in for you guys. So we're no longer just sponsored by the like button, but we're also sponsored by Event Connect here. Event Connect's basically an all-in-one showcase platform that you can use for any events that you have. Literally, when we did our first showcase back last summer, it was an absolute disaster to try and organize everything. There's hotels, there's rinks, there's refs, all these different things. You have to get players to sign up. It's actually kind of crazy. Event Connect's that streamlined platform that we wish we had before. We used it for our second showcase here this summer coming up, and honestly, it's been a game changer, and we're going to keep using it moving forward. So if you're someone that's trying to organize an event, if you're a junior team, if you're a college team trying to organize a different event, whatnot, Event Connect, I would say, is your platform to go to because it's really made such a difference in our lives and it's made it so much more efficient that this way we can actually spend time doing other things and advising players and all these things. So thank you, Event Connect, for sponsoring this video and helping us out with the showcase. All right, so first things first, the principles to follow when choosing which showcases to attend. There's 4 main things that I want you guys to keep in mind. First, the event organizers, they have to be very trustworthy. Really important that there's somebody that has a good reputation in hockey, that aren't going to do some kind of scam, because it does happen, unfortunately, and people that that are going to run a good show. It can't be some put together, last minute thing. We did a little bit of that the past summer, but it went well. This summer, we're way more organized with our showcase, but when it comes to the organizer, really make sure you do your research. Other people say good things about them. They've ran showcases in the past and that they know what they're doing, okay? Really, really important. Number 1, that the organizer is very well trusted. Number 2, you want to make sure you have really high exposure, okay? You want to make sure that there's a lot of scouts there, be it whatever the showcase is focused on. Let's say it's an NCAA D1 showcase. You want at least 10 NCAA D1 scouts there if they're advertising it that way, if not more. If it's an NCAA D3 showcase, you want at least 10 or 15 NCAA D3 coaches there. If it's more of a junior showcase, you want to make sure there's a variety of different junior teams there. So if it's an OJHL showcase, you want a lot of coaches there. If it's a prep showcase, you want a lot of prep schools and so on. At the end of the day, you just want to make sure whatever they're advertising, let's say it's an NCAA junior prep showcase, whatever it is, you want to make sure that there's a lot of coaches there so you're actually going to get seen. Number 3, you want a small to medium sized showcase. You don't want it to be too big. There's There's a couple big tournaments in the summer that happen in the States. I'm not gonna name which ones. I'm not gonna condemn tournaments on YouTube here, but basically there's over 80 teams. There's so many players there. Yes, there might be, some scouting there, but to be honest, I've been to the advanced. There is some, but not that much scouting. And at the end of the day, if there's 80 teams, to be a player that gets recognized at one of these showcases, you have to be one of the top ones. And the odds that you outperform every single player there, even though you might be great, it's tough because there's so many players that are actually there. So that's really not beneficial. You want to go to a showcase that's more in the size of like 100 to like 150 players, something around those lines. Anything too small, then it's tough because there's not enough players to get seen and for coaches to come watch. But anything bigger than that, then it gets diluted, and then coaches might have their attention diluted pretty much, so they might not really actually scout you. So making sure that they're small to medium size really goes a long way for your exposure. And number 4 here, the fourth principle, last but not least, make sure that there's small teams. Okay, so not too big of teams where you have like 5 lines or 7D, 3 or 4 goalies. That's kind of nonsense. I think that's scamming people, honestly, if you do that. But make sure it's smaller teams and that you have a lot of ice time, so you have a lot of games. So minimum like 3 games. You have a skill session. If you're a goalie, if you can get a goalie session in there, great. Minimum that you have that for a weekend. If you go to a showcase and it's like you get 2 games maybe, and if you win, you get 1 game and you don't get any skill session, no off ice, no goalie, anything like that, then it's not great. So I would say try and get a showcase that at least you have like 3 games at the very least. And then if you don't have a skill session, you have 4 games or so on. Just make sure you have adequate amount of ice time and that there's, about 3 lines per team, 5 to 6D, something like that, 2 goalies. I think that's very fair. And I think that's the right way to run a showcase. Anything beyond that, I think, isn't fair for the hockey players and the parents that are paying. So I think that's one big thing that you want to consider as well. All right, so the moment you guys have all been waiting for, our list of top 8 showcases that we recommend. Starting with number 1, and by the way, this is in no particular order here when I'm mentioning showcase lists, okay? So they all have their own strengths and weaknesses, and it's by no order. But I would say the number 1 here is a very solid showcase, and that is the Matterhorn All IVY Showcase. This one is down in Florida, so to be honest, I've never been to this showcase, but I've seen some videos. I've heard other scouts going to these showcases. I've heard coaches going there, clients of ours going there, and they said they had a wonderful experience. It's super well run. To be honest, the showcase that we host, like, we aspire to be at that level. Like, they're really a next level showcase. It's very well run. It's medium size. There is a decent amount of players there, but it's not like so excessive where there's like 500, 600 players there. It's a decent size. It's scouted by all the Ivy League schools, so all the D1 Ivy League schools. It's scouted by other D1 schools that are there too. Some people make an appearance. Some USHL scouts, NA scouts make an appearance there because it's a pretty well-renowned showcase. So honestly, it's very well scouted overall, very well run. And because of that, I don't really have much negative to say about it. The only thing is that it's very D1 heavy, okay? So if you're not a guy that's a D1 prospect, let's say you're a guy who's playing in the EHL, 19 years old, something like that, probably not the showcase to go to, because while there may be the odd D3 school that goes there, it's not heavily scouted by D3 programs. I think you would want to go to a showcase that's more heavily scouted by D3 programs. So I go more in that direction. So, but if you're a guy that's really gunning for Ivy, you think you have a good shot, or if not Ivy, other good academic D1 schools, then this showcase is probably the gold standard. But again, another weakness actually is that 1, it's pretty expensive, and 2, it is down in Florida, so it is quite a hike away. So you definitely have to have the resources or live close to there if you're going to go to this showcase. So that's one thing to keep in mind. But all that said, extremely well-run showcase, has a ton of D1 exposure there. I really think it's worth it if you're a guy gunning for D1 hockey. All right, so number 2 on our list here, and I hate to say it, I feel like such a shameless plug guy when I say this, but honestly, the AHA Showcase is number 2 on our list. And again, it's no particular order, guys, and I'm not saying that we're the second best showcase in the world. I just have to put it on the list here because I think we're doing it the right way. And I know I'm extremely biased and take my opinion with a grain of salt when I say this, but for us, like, we have something that I don't think many showcases touch on, and it's varied exposure. So we have a lot of NCAA D1 coaches that go. We have a lot of NCAA D3 coaches that go, a lot of junior A coaches that go, and a lot of prep coaches and AAA coaches. So it's really across the board. You get varied exposure. We have varied players. So from this year is going to be 2003s to 2008s, 2 different age groups. And the biggest thing about ours that we wanted to do is that all the principles that I mentioned before, I want to touch on all of those. So good exposure. Hopefully you guys trust me. Hopefully you think I'm a good source of information. I'm trustworthy. I'd like to think that I am, but it's up to you guys to decide. It's small teams. So 3 lines, 5 or 6D, 2 goalies, no more than that. A lot of ice time, off ice training, and all that stuff. So it really like encompasses everything, and it's not too big. We're gonna have 136 kids there this year, and that's going to be the cap for each of our showcases moving forward. So all in all, you know, I hate ranting about our own things and promoting our own things, because I know you guys don't like that. I think you guys want me to be completely transparent, but this is me being completely transparent, saying that I think it is a top tier showcase because I think we're following all the principles that I mentioned a while ago. So again, biased here, take my opinion with a grain of salt. I'll let you guys decide if you do end up coming, and I'll let you guys tell us what you guys think about it. All right, so showcase number 3 on our list here is Salt City Prospects. Now, these guys are really interesting. They have multiple showcases across the board, like literally everywhere. I think there's like 8 to 10 of them going on in the summer, and it's ran by an assistant coach at Oswego University, so D3 coach 𝗵𝗂𝗶𝗴𝗆. Now, this guy, actually got on the phone with him a couple times. Great guy, really sounds like he's doing the things right. I've actually never physically been to these showcases, but I reached out with other people that I knew and that I knew Bob, and I asked him for a couple references, and I reached out to them, and they really, you know, had great things to say about him, great things to say about the showcase. There seems to be like some varied exposure there. I think it's a bit more D3 heavy and a bit more, you know, NCAA hockey heavy, but you know, I've heard that there's junior coaches, scouts, all that do go. So from what I've heard, you know, talking to the guy, it really sounds like he's a trustworthy guy doing it the right way. He's a D3 coach. His reputation definitely means a lot to him. So I would say this is definitely a showcase worth considering, because there's different, you know, a bunch of different showcases at different spots, you know, throughout the US. I'd say if you're close to it, it might be worth attending if you're free that weekend. All right, now moving on to number 4 on our list here, and this is Apex Sports Camp. This one's actually one of my hidden gems that I really love, that I know not a lot of Americans know, but a lot of people in the Montreal area really know, because it is in fact in the Montreal area, more specifically LaSalle. This showcase honestly is very NCAA D1 heavy. There's a few D3 schools that end up showing up, but it's very mainly focused on NCAA D1, but it's actually a very small showcase. I think I remember there was only, you know, 6 teams there this year. When I went back in the day, like 10 years ago, there was only 4 teams at the 3 showcases that I went. So honestly, it's really been going on for a while. The organizer there does a really good job. I thought it was good this year. I thought the caliber was good when I saw it, and there was a lot of scouts in the building. So yeah, really good experience. I enjoy going to it every year. There's always good players there. You get good ice time, like everything you'd want in a showcase. It's really good. I'd say the main weakness is that there's not really much junior going on, not too much prep or AAA, anything like that. It's very NCAA heavy, because it's the whole point of it is to promote Quebec players to go play NCAA hockey. So I understand, but yeah, honestly, a good showcase to go to if you're gunning for D1, and if you're gunning more for D3, there are some D3 coaches that are there, so worth going to. So we got number 5 on our list here, and that is the EHPC Showcase. This one was in Buffalo. We actually went to it back in April. We have a vlog that you can check up here if you want to check it out. It's pretty funny, and it just gives you a quick snapshot as to what it was like that weekend. But honestly, it was a great time. I was very pleasantly surprised with the sheer amount of D1 and D3 coaches that were in the building. I think there was, honestly, it's probably the most I've ever seen at a summer showcase. There's probably like 35 to maybe 40 coaches there, which is actually is very absurd just when it comes to NCAA coaches. So very NCAA heavy. Not really many junior coaches. Maybe I saw 1 or 2, but it wasn't really junior heavy. It was very NCAA heavy. Not really prep coaches, anything like that either. And it ran for actually 5 days. So it was from Wednesday to Sunday. So that was pretty cool. You don't really see that with showcases too much, but it might be a bit tougher if you have like school commitments and all that stuff. So it's something to consider. The cost was reasonable for what it was. It was a bit more expensive because it ran longer. That was reasonable. The only thing I would say for this showcase to improve, we actually know the organizer really well, and he was kind of a one-man show organizing this. And I know from experience, if you try to do it alone, it's a nightmare. It's a lot of work to organize a showcase. He was organizing it alone, so it could have been a bit more organized, but overall, because there were so many perks there, so many coaches, it was really impressive, and I had to put it on this list. All right, so the following 3 here that we have are more junior focused, and these ones, it's a bit more nuanced, right? It depends if you think you're gonna be that caliber to play or not. So it's really tough because a lot of these have open invites and all that stuff, and it can be a money grab, but if you think you're the caliber and you go to the right ones, I think it is worth it. So number 6 here on our list is the USHL Combine, or any USHL camps. So for these guys, I think honestly, they're invite only. Obviously, if you know someone, whatever, you can get invited, but I'd say they're only worth it if you actually genuinely think that you're either a USHL prospect, so you can make it maybe in a year or 2, or that you can make a USHL team right away this year. If you don't think you're that guy, if you don't think you're that level, if you think you're more of like a tier 3 level, like EHL, USPHL premier, don't waste your time, resources, and all that to go to these camps. You know, it's really important. They're extremely high level camps. You have to be a very high level hockey player to go. So I'd recommend, like, don't waste your time if you don't think you're that hockey player. But if you do think you are, if you think you do have USHL potential, you have D1 schools talking to you and all that stuff, in this case, 100% it's worth going to these camps. All right, number 7 on our list here, and that is the NAHL Combine. Again, this one could be very money grabby when you go there, and if you do decently well, or even if you don't do that well at all, you'll get emails from a bunch of different NA teams saying, come to our prospect camp, come to this, come to that. And a lot of them are generic emails that are really not worth going to, okay? So that's something you really have to keep in mind. It can be very money grabby / predatory, you know, so I don't like it for that reason. But if you go there and you do really well, which I've seen clients do before, from there you might get an invite straight to main camp. You might actually get the coach calling you, and very rarely a coach might sign you. In the NA, it's very, very rare that they just sign you from that camp. They want you to go through their process to make the money, and they want to get the best team possible, not jump on a player straight away, see him more in adverse situations. But this camp can give you really good exposure to NA teams if you haven't had any before, and if you think you're an NA caliber player. If you don't really think you are yet, I'd say it's not really worth going to. Really only go to this NA Combine if you think you really are an NA player, or you think you can become it that year. So that's something to keep in mind. In terms of location, there's a bunch of different locations, there's different camps that you can go to, but I would say it's worth it if you do think you're an NA caliber player the following year. And last but not least here, the 8th showcase that we recommend is the CCHL Prospect Camp up in Ottawa. So this one, very similar to the NA Prospect Camp. I would say, you know, if you don't think you're the caliber yet of playing in the CCHL, probably not worth going to. But if you really think you have a good shot at cracking the CCHL the following year, I think definitely a good showcase to go to. You get seen by all 12 CC teams, and I've been to it. It's well organized, it's well run. The caliber really varies. Honestly, there's some great players, which usually these are the guys that can get signed right away from that camp or get invited straight to training camp in August. But there's, you know, some really not so great players at that camp. So it's really scattered. But if you really go there and you dominate, you do have a chance to get signed right away, or at least seriously considered by CCHL team. Definitely a good showcase to go to if you think you're of that caliber. All right, so we talked about a lot of showcases, gave a lot of names. Let's do a quick recap of the top 8 showcases that we recommend here in no particular order. Number 1, the Matterhorn All IVY Showcase down in Florida. Number 2, the AHA Showcase down in Burlington, Vermont. Keyboard warriors, please don't attack me too much. Number 3, Salt City Prospects in various locations in the United States. Number 4, Apex Sports Camp in Montreal, Quebec. Number 5, the EHPC Showcase in Buffalo and Toronto. Number 6, the USHL Combine. Number 7, the NAHL Combine in various locations in the United States. And number 8, the CCHL Prospect Camp in Ottawa, Ontario. And again, this list is of no particular order. It's the showcases that we recommend. All have their strengths and weaknesses, but for certain players, some showcases are really worth going to on this list if you do have the means. And that is it for the video, guys. It was a bit of a longer one, but I think it was very informative, and hopefully it helps you guys pick the right showcases here moving forward. If you enjoyed this video, and if you haven't already, absolutely destroy that like button. It goes a really long way. Again, thanks to Event Connect, our sponsors here. Really great platform for everything events and showcases. Also too, if you're new here and if you haven't already, consider hitting that subscribe button and notification bell so you never miss another video moving forward. If you have any questions, anything you want to ask us whatsoever, opinions about showcases, whatever, if you think we miss anything, drop a comment down below or send us a private email at info@ahadvising.com and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. All right, guys, that is it for the video. Thank you so much for watching. We'll catch you on that next one.